Hello YouTube, I'm John, too tall for baseball, and I'm going to show you today about double stroke rolls. Based on a lot of things I've seen on YouTube, I see a lot of guys demonstrating what's actually called the long roll. And what that is when you start slow, single strokes on each hand, and you make a transition to bounce strokes. Then you play the roll faster and faster. Some will even go to a Bose roll, and then out to double stroke roll, and then transition back to single strokes. Okay, that's called a long roll. That's not necessarily a double stroke roll. That's a long roll. Anytime you start slow, using singles on each hand, this is a single stroke. These are single strokes. So if I do two in each hand, single stroke, single, 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 and I transition to double where I'm bouncing. Now I'm bouncing. Okay. Coming back out of that, still bouncing, still bouncing. Now I'm single stroking. Now the single strokes really don't have much to do with the double strokes. The double stroke is a bounce stroke, okay? And hit it once and let it bounce. Like that. Hit it once, let it bounce. It's a double stroke. It's a bounce stroke. Single strokes, you hit each one. It's a separate stroke each time you hit. These are single strokes. Now I see guys demonstrating things on YouTube where they talk about playing single strokes first, and then somehow that's supposed to help their double strokes. Well, it doesn't. Single strokes don't have anything to do with double strokes at all. Later on in this video, I'm going to show you some check patterns where you use single strokes to keep the rhythm steady and help you meter your rolls to the quarter note, like if you're playing with a metronome. So in other words, you would go 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4 E and a, that kind of thing, okay? But the single strokes themselves are not going to help your double stroke roll at all, period. One of the things I want to talk to you about is the grip. Now I use a traditional grip, and a lot of guys may use match grip or whatever. I use a traditional grip. It's what I first learned to use back over 40 years ago. Okay, my balance point for me is about right there. Okay, if I move it up any further, that's going to be real awkward, hard to play. If I move it back in the back, and some set players play with their grip way back in the back like that, they get more power. But for me, it's harder to control, and it just doesn't work that well for me. So I use a traditional grip with my balance point here. In my right hand, I have about this much, a little bit over an inch or so before my pinky finger. Now, set players oftentimes will use this type of grip. I'm not gripping with a fulcrum here. A lot of marching band guys may use a fulcrum here, okay? And it's because that's the way they play, and that's good for them in their environment. So, you know, that works for them. I used to play that way a long time ago, but I don't play that way now. I prefer more a grip where your stick is here, it's on the first joint of your index finger, and then you're using your back three fingers to control the stick, okay? So my fulcrum is actually my middle finger, all right? So, here's to demonstrate I'm using my fulcrum there. If I'm playing a doubles, okay? And that's where my fulcrum is. My index finger is just there, and it helps me to control the accents. When you're playing accents, accented patterns, what you have to be able to do is control the accents and then against the unaccented notes, okay? So you've got to be able to, when you hit the note, you got to be able to be down lower for the lower notes. So accented notes, unaccented notes. For me, it's easier. I can hold the stick like this, and I won't feel any shock. So I won't have any tension or any problems with carpal tunnel or even arthritis, as some players do. If you squeeze right here, you're apt to have tension and you can hurt yourself. You can get carpal tunnel, and I've known one guy to even have arthritis because he used this. When you're playing rim shots, if you're playing like this, you can feel that shock throughout your arm. If I'm playing like this, I don't have that problem. See, I can catch that stick, and it's a lot easier, and it doesn't slow me down, and I don't feel the shock or the tension. Now I want to talk to you about some things I've seen on YouTube which I thought were kind of strange. I've seen guys talk about, let's say, one guy in particular started playing French grip. I don't play French grip really. Sometimes I use a French grip like for a ride cymbal, like most everybody else does for set players. But he started talking about using this finger control exercise to somehow make an impact on his double stroke roll. Now that doesn't have anything to do at all with developing a double stroke roll. This finger control uses a completely different set of muscles in a different way. Okay, so there's no way that this is going to ever transition to anything that you're going to be able to use with a double stroke roll. It's just simply not, has nothing to do. It's apples and oranges. Okay. So anytime you see a video where somebody talking about single strokes, they start talking about playing like this and then suddenly playing double strokes, how that's somehow supposed to help your double stroke roll, it's not. Okay, so you have to kind of be careful. I would suggest to anybody who wants to learn to play a double stroke roll, you need to get a teacher, somebody who's qualified to play. You know, YouTube is okay if you get somebody who knows what they're doing. But for the most part, you need to have a teacher who knows, who can see you from week to week and see the way you play and can guide you from point A to point B. Now, it takes a long time to learn to play a double stroke roll. I'm going to say 2 to 3 years before you've got a good double stroke roll happening. Okay? So be careful when you see somebody talking about finger control exercises. And I see guys talking about the double stroke roll. They'll come in and they've got some weird, what I call bam bam grip, and they're real tight, and they're doing like, they're playing like this, or they start snapping their fingers playing like this. When you play a roll, you're not snapping your fingers. You're not using your fingers really at all. The fingers are just held on the stick. You keep it from flopping around. But the double stroke roll is played with a wrist, play with a break of the wrist. I'm not doing anything with my fingers at all other than holding onto the stick. I'm not going to let it fall, okay? So when I'm playing like this, I'm not doing anything with my fingers at all. I'm just holding it on the stick. That's it, okay? Now, it's all about the break of the wrist, okay? I use a concept called playing through the drum. Beginners typically play to the drum, and this is what their doubles sound like. When they first start playing, I'm going to exaggerate, because they're stiff. They don't know how to actually stroke, make a stroke. They're poking at it. And so it sounds like that. And I hear guys on YouTube talk about, this is how to correct that. You accent your secondary beat. Okay, so when you get that up to tempo or a little faster tempo, I mean, only thing you've done right there is created another problem. So, if I'm playing a roll like this, you can hear that secondary beat, but we don't want that. We want it to be clean. We want the notes to be even. So I have a concept called playing through the drum. This is what I mean by that. I'm going to let my wrist break a little bit more than it normally would just to make contact. I want you to pretend that you're playing to a surface that's 3 inches lower than the actual drum. When you do that, you're forced to break your wrist a little bit more. Now these guys that talk about secondary beats, when they start playing up to tempo, they don't use that technique anymore. They play with this technique, and they're not doing anything with their fingers. So they're trying to tell you in one breath to accent the secondary beat, but they forget to tell you when they play it at tempo, they no longer do that, okay? So the easiest way to learn this is to not do all the secondary things, alternate methods to learn it. Just learn it in the correct method in the first place. Now I'm not going to say that the secondary accent is not important. Okay, if you want to play, let's say, shuffle beats. Okay, I'm actually using that secondary beat, okay? And that's kind of handy in that regard, in that context. That's fine to use that. It's an okay skill to have, but it doesn't necessarily help your double stroke roll, okay? So, getting back to my playing through the drum, watch this. You will notice I'm able to play this without accenting a secondary note. I can still get 2 even doubles. Okay, let's play it even slower. Now, watch this. I'm going to play it just with my middle finger. I'm going to kind of keep my index finger on there so it doesn't flop around. Okay, but I'm not going to use any of the other fingers, so I'll show you. I'm not snapping the stick. I'm not snapping my fingers. I can play this. I can play it slowly. It's still a bounce. And I'm able to get 2 even strokes, okay? But I'm playing through the drum. My wrist is breaking a little bit more than it would take just to make contact. And what I'm doing is playing through, and then I pick the stick up, work with the rebound, okay? So, I don't need to do anything extra. I don't need to learn any other technique. I don't need to do anything that later on is going to cause me more headache. Same with the left hand. Now try to see if you can play these together and not have any, in other words, keep everything even. Play it slow. These are bounces. These are not single strokes. Try to play it even slower. Slow as you can with still making it a bounce. Now, when you're working on this, you want to work on each hand individually. You spend a long time doing this, just one hand, okay? Playing through the drum, not to the drum, through the drum. Sorry about these rim shots, occasional rim shots. Here we go. Playing through the drum, 2 equal strokes, okay? I mean, it's a bounce stroke, but even taps. Both notes are the same. It can be done without snapping your fingers. You shouldn't have to snap your fingers. Don't use your fingers to help at all. Don't try to help the stick at all with your fingers. Drive through. It's all with the wrist. I would encourage you to do this with each hand individually. Don't try to put them all together too early. Don't spend a lot of time doing that because you're just struggling. You're making it hard on yourself. Make it easy on yourself. Okay, it's a tendency, if you're not careful, it's a tendency when you are playing to let your fingers spread out a little bit. Okay, you have to kind of fight that because that's a natural tendency and it causes you to lose control of the stick. So we're just going to hold it very lightly, but we're playing through the drum. Now, like I said before, there's some guys who are some really great players I see on YouTube talking about a secondary note. In And that's fine. I did that 40 years ago myself, okay? But it really doesn't help your double stroke roll at all. What you have to do is learn to play through the drum. Now this is one thing I do a lot. I use both hands. And I'm not worried about how high I play. I'm not worried about necessarily playing loud or soft or anything. I'm worried about playing loose. Loose. Get them together. I'm trying to play loose, same height, but loose. Okay? Again, you'll notice here, my grip, it's open right there. I'm able to play loose if I've got that open. Now, some guys, you play up in here, with this fulcrum here, you tend to close that. And when you do, I used to play that way too, a long time ago. When you do, you can still play. You can play any way you want. But this has the tendency to have tension with it. You can still play that way. And drum corps guys may play that way. One thing about drum corps grip, let me make a distinction between drum set players and drum corps players. Guys who play on marching drum lines, whatever. Typically those guys will have some recipe for how they want you to hold your grip. They might have fingers back here, your pinky finger rolled back here, and this finger's got to be rolled over here. And what they're trying to do, and this hand will be a little tighter, and the grip will be a little closer to the stick, and be a little bit less in motion, whatever. What these guys are trying to do is to get 8 or 10 guys, who some of them may be 5'2", I'm 6'6", trying to get them all look the same. They want to get all their grips to look the same, want all to play the same height, this, that, and the other, and it's for choreography. Okay, it's really not that much for, does this folding back your pinky finger make you play better? No, it makes me play with tension. Okay, but it makes 8 to 10 guys look the same, and hopefully have this same stick height, this, that, and the other. It doesn't necessarily make you play better. Okay, to me, it's a lot of those things really unnatural. And I don't like the close, what I call a bam bam grip, with your hands like this. Some guys play that way, you can play any way you want, but that's not for me. I don't really like it. It's not very good for drum set at all. There are no great drum set players who play that way. It just doesn't happen. Dave Weckles of the world will play with this type of grip, your finger here, and a loose grip here. Dave Weckl, you've got Vinny Colaiuta, great player, one of the best in the world. Steve Gadd, another player who play like this, plays very loose. Steve Smith's another great player, plays with this type of grip. Okay, Todd Zuckerman, another great player. He plays with open grip here. Okay, so it's very important that you get a grip that makes it easy to play and is very loose and relaxed. Okay. So back to the long stroke roll for a second. I see guys do these on lessons even, and on YouTube, and they do these single strokes, and then they'll crank up the metronome, another click, and then another click, and they've done practically their whole video is on this. This is all single stroke. This is not a double stroke roll, it's a single stroke. It's single stroke, 2 on each hand. I saw a guy one time do a demo at a PAS convention. Now he did a double stroke roll that fast with single strokes. And I figured, hey, more power to you, but for the rest of the real world, we don't really have any use for that. Make it easier on yourself, just use double strokes and let them bounce. But now these guys, getting back to these guys on the long roll, doing their lessons, they're trying to play their single strokes way too fast when they should have made the transition much earlier. This is what I'm talking about. Single, double. Double, 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 single. So it's almost when I'm hardly even going at all when they're single. And I try to make that transition very early, like right now. Single, double, if you keep on going with the single strokes till it's like really, oh my goodness, fast, it doesn't make any sense to do that. I mean, and the big deal about the long roll is you'll never play it in performance. Over the 40 plus years I played, I've never played the long roll in a performance. You use those for auditions, but outside of that, you really don't use it in a performance at all. You'll never probably ever use that in a performance at all. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to spend a lot of time trying to see how fast you can go with your single before you make this transition. So make the transition early. Double. Okay? Single, single, double. Don't wait to go to make the transition to double, because it really solves nothing. I mean, you should be able to play a long or double stroke roll very slowly and cleanly without having to play single strokes forever. Okay? So, now let's talk about playing check patterns for timing, okay? Here's, I'm going to use 16th notes. What I'm trying to do is meter the double strokes to where the single strokes transition and keep the rhythm the same. 1, 2, E and a 3, E and a 4, E and a double. 1, E and a 2, E and a 3, E and a 4, E and a double. At 80. Now, again, what this is designed to do is to keep the double strokes in time, in relation, just relation to the time. Okay, I'm metering that to 16th notes. In other words, 4 strokes per beat. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a. It's a very common thing for high school drum lines and college drum lines. I played even high school, college, and I played in the Marine Corps for 5 years. So we played a lot of exercises where we would transition from going single strokes to E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 2 E and a 3. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. 2, 3, 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a roll. Okay? Now, in that regard, it's okay to use that's called a check pattern. What happens is when you're playing the single stroke notes, it gives you a chance to relax a little bit. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a roll. Okay, when I play the singles, I'm relaxing a little bit. Okay. Okay, you can do that with triplets. One and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a triple it. 1, 2, 3 and a 4 and a 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So, double strokes are very important. You have to learn how to play double strokes. Without that, you won't be able to play, let's say, paradiddles. Or let's say paradiddle diddles. Much less put them together. or much less combinations. So, doubles, when I'm practicing these doubles, I'll play a long time for these on these type of rhythms here. 2 sticks, 2 doubles together, sticks together. I might do this 15 or 20 minutes, okay? Then I'll start to play, let's say, 5 stroke rolls. 2, 4, 5, 2, 4, 5, 2, 4, 5, 2, 4, 5. I can start with my left. And let's go to 9s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Whoops. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. 9 stroke roll. Okay, let's go, let's say 13 stroke roll. 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 5. 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 5. Okay, that's 17. 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Now it's good to play in these in short bursts. You don't want to try to play a long roll, or let's say a double stroke roll, for a long time, because it gets very tiresome. You want to kind of do a little short burst, okay? So let's say I'll play some of these, and I might play 5 stroke roll. Gotta get it real clean. Then I might play, let's say, 4 count roll, 33 stroke roll. 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1. Or let's say 33 note roll. Or yeah, 33 stroke roll. 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 1. Okay? Again, I'm not worried about playing loud, I'm not worried about playing soft, not trying to play at my eye level, but I'm not trying to play way down here. This is weak. Okay, anybody and their brother can do that. You want to be able to play a big sound. Okay? So now, back to one more thing about grips. I'm going to talk about a little bit about the French grip. French grip is good, at least for my right hand, since I need to play a ride cymbal, or I need to play a floor tom here, 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 whatever. It's important that I can play like this. Okay, so when I'm playing my rolls, I'll kind of turn my hand over and practice on that grip as well. Okay, with this, again, I'm not trying to help the stick with my fingers at all. I'm playing through the drum. I'm breaking my wrist and letting it go a little bit farther. Okay, but the fingers are not doing anything other than holding on the stick. Alright, this takes a long time to learn how to play versus this. This is much easier, much more natural. This is far more difficult to play this way. Okay, fewer muscles involved, it's just tougher grip to play. But again, I'm not trying to help the stick with my fingers at all. It's all done with the wrist. Worst thing you can do is try to help the stick with your fingers. You're going to ask for more problems you have to straighten out later on, okay? Again, my fulcrum is here. It's not here. It's here. Okay? It's very difficult to play this way. Very difficult. I can't, see, now I've got that beginner sound. Now, when I'm playing set, it's much easier for me to play. Vinny Collier plays this way. When he's playing his hi-hat, he plays this way. He doesn't play that way. If you want to play this way, go ahead. It's just harder to do. This is much more natural for me, this type of grip here. It doesn't have to be flat. That's not really comfortable. You know, but a full French grip on a hi-hat doesn't make sense to me. I like kind of play it like this. This is a little easier. If I'm playing on the bell of the cymbal, I'm going to still play kind of flat here. I'm not going to play like this. If I'm playing on the bell of the cymbal, play it like this. If I'm just playing on a ride, I'll play it like this. Okay. Playing on floor toms, I'm going to play it like this. Because I don't have time to do all of this. It's just no time. Okay. You got to be able to play like that. You're just moving the stick between 2 points. You got to have the least amount of motion that you need. Okay. In order to be able to play. Okay. Once again, single strokes. Want to do finger strokes? Fine, do all that all you want, but it has nothing to do with a double stroke roll at all. Okay, you're not going to use your fingers when you're playing. Excuse me. You're not going to use your fingers when you're playing a double stroke roll. All right, anybody tell you to do all that with the fingers and all this kind of stuff? I look for another YouTube video. All right, because the double stroke roll is going to be played just with the break of the wrist. You're not going to try to help it with your fingers at all. Well, I hope you got something out of that.